Hello everyone, today I've got 3 landscape drawing or painting ideas for you, and I'm going to use Karin Markers for this because this video is kindly sponsored by Karin Markers, but you can use any kind of supplies that you have at home. This is not limited to just one kind of supply. So here you can see my colors for the first painting, and here I decided to paint a little pond with some water lilies in it and a little bit of a scenery in the background. Quick interruption because I forgot to mention it in the video. As always, I will try my best to link all of the products in the description box down below, especially the Karin Markers. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video. I love using the Karin Markers, so there's a lot of these videos on my channel now, and I hope that you'll love those markers as well. So you can see that at first I kind of used the Karin Markers almost like watercolors. I diluted them with water so that I could paint them on there and just get some color on there without making it too dark. And you can also see some cat hair here. Cat hair is pretty much part of every single one of my paintings. So yeah, that's normal. It's probably not from the brush. It's always hard to tell whether brushes lose hairs or whether it's just cat hair. So you can see that I'm now drawing some water lilies, and these are actually fairly easy if you ask me, because they're basically just these ellipses and they're green, have a little bit of an outline in the shadow, and then we have the flowers, and you can do them with as much or as little detail as you want. I'm gonna add more details over time. So you can see that I'm slowly building up the scene. I started a little bit with the water and then here with the background. I'm just trying to kind of make out where I want to put things. And in the beginning, I put some blobs in the sky. Then I kind of changed my mind about the sky, so they were completely useless. I don't know, you can kind of see them a little bit, but now I'm drawing some mountains here in the background, and then I decided to do some clouds in the background because originally I wanted it all to be a forest. But then I changed my mind and wanted to do some kind of sky and clouds. And the original blobs that were on there, they were just supposed to be the little bit of sky peeking through the forest. That probably makes no sense if you don't know what I had in my brain, but just know that my paintings go through a process and they don't always turn out how I had intended them. And that's okay because it's all about the process. And if you midway through the painting decide to go into a completely different direction, that's part of it. That's part of the fun of it. And I usually don't know how it's going to turn out and how it's going to look in the end. And this is what makes it so interesting if you ask me, because if you always know exactly what you're going to create, I think that's kind of boring. I mean, some artists like to work that way. They have a very good plan, or they do realistic drawings where you can kind of expect the way they're gonna look in the end. But I like the mystery. I like the surprise and seeing how it turns out and whether I can make it work. Pretty much all of my paintings, halfway through, I'm like, can I make it work? Is it gonna look good? And up until the end, there's always the possibility that I might kind of ruin the drawing if I add something that I don't like. And very often you can't really go back with traditional art. It's not like you can pause the go back button, like Control Z, like you would do in Photoshop or another program. And by the way, this is my tiny pencil. This is the smallest pencil I've ever had. It's a black colored pencil, and here I added in more details with colored pencils, and I had a lot of fun with that. And I think I have to use colored pencils a little bit more because I'm slowly finding my love for them again, but I don't want to do colored pencil only art because that takes me forever and always. Colored pencils are probably the most time-consuming art medium other than maybe diamond painting or something like that. So I only use them for details and such, as you can see here. And I also added these lines in the mountains in the background because on the other side that you can see on the right, I had that too. And I wanted to pull that together at least somewhat, even though it's a completely different style. I think it kind of clashes a little bit, but it's okay. It's a sketchbook. I'm always reminding myself of that. Does not have to be perfect whatsoever. And I'm actually pretty proud that my sketchbooks look like this. And they're not just sketches. I really prefer to paint in a sketchbook and make finished art in there and not just sketches like black and white colored pencil sketches. So you can see that this is the first finished painting now, and with the other side that was already there, which is also a video of mine if you want to check that out. And now we're doing another page spread, and for the first one I wanted to do a city landscape, and you can see that I kind of did a sketch and then erased it so it's not too dark, so we don't see it through the painting. But the painting was so dark, then it completely hit the sketch anyways, and I barely made a sketch, like only for the sun, the mountains, and like 3 of the buildings, and that's it. And other than that, I was just doing it as I wanted, just winging it. That's mostly how I do art. It's the ADHD way. I don't know an ADHD person who would plan out their art. I think that's too many steps. That's not fun at all. Just pick up a color, pick up a brush, and go. Get started right away. Just do it, and make sure you finish it. Make sure you have some type of accountability so you finish it. That's the hardest part, probably. And because a lot of art pieces go through ugly stages, but what I had in this specific video was, especially for this painting and the next one coming up, that I think it looked better halfway through. And then I added in more details and it kind of got worse a little bit. I mean, it doesn't look too bad, but it looked very promising in the beginning. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And if I add in details, it's going to look perfect. And then I added in the details and it did in fact not look perfect. I was like, what happened here? Yeah, but that happens too sometimes. And it's part of all of the mystery and the roller coaster ride of creating art. You can see that with the sun, I did this kind of these lines that are a little bit messy, but in a controlled way. What is happening? Weird. Why did this color go from purple to blue, and then when I made it wet, like reactivated it, it turned to purple again, and then it dried and it got blue again? I mean, it's normal for the colors to change a little bit, but that was a lot. Like, it looked completely different. But if you have color swatches, this is not a big deal. And this is, I think, the only Karin marker that I've used so far that this happened with. I just was super surprised by it, and it was a funny thing to me because I thought like it was gonna change when I re-wetted it, but when it dried, it turned right back to blue. Honestly, I wouldn't have minded the more purple tone either, but here goes to say that swatching can be very useful. Usually when I pick out a color palette, I look at every color that I have in the color palette and make a little swatch of it, and that is very, very helpful. So here's the finished page from our city skyline, and I used a metallic silver for the windows and the clouds. And now for the last painting of this video, I decided to paint an A-frame house. I kind of always wanted to do this, like an A-frame house in the middle of the woods with a lot of greenery around it, but a little bit surreal. Like, it doesn't look realistic. It's more in this kind of style. I've seen a similar style to this all over Pinterest and Instagram, meaning the trees just being these round blobs and not being like real trees. Or maybe it's also bushes. I don't know if it's a bush or a tree, but it is some kind of greenery that's basically a round blob. And I also did some blobs, like the dark purple ones here, that look a little bit more like a cloud or a little bit more like a bush. And then I painted the windows in the color that I had for the sky on the other piece. And I thought that this bluish purple tone would look like glass maybe, but in hindsight, I think this would have looked much better if the windows were yellow, like they look like they're lit up, like there's light inside of the house. So if I ever do this again, I might try it with a little bit different colors. And I have revisited ideas before, and I might revisit this one at one point. And I think at this point, it looked so promising and so cool. And I was like, I'm just gonna add in the details and the line art, and it's gonna look magnificent. I was getting excited, and yeah, really loved it at that point. And then I started to add in all of the details for the greenery and started to think, it's a bit much, isn't it?
I think if I met me, I think I might be like, yeah, he was nice, but he's a bit much.
It's a little bit too much. So I don't know, maybe that's just what I feel like right now. Maybe it depends on my mood, because sometimes I look back on paintings and I'm like, yeah, I love this one. I wonder why I didn't like it when I first created it. So maybe that's gonna happen with this one, or maybe it's just always gonna put me off a little bit that I think there's a little bit too much detail in there. I don't know what it is, but as I said, I might recreate this with maybe different colors or a little bit slightly different than here, and see if I like it better then. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how it looks, especially next to the other page. So I used the exact same color scheme here as I did on the other page, and that makes a very cohesive sketchbook page spread. And I always love that. I love flipping through a sketchbook and it just looks like it is the way that it should, like everything goes nicely together. I really hope that you enjoyed all of those ideas. And if you did so, please give this video a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to check out Karin Markers. I will try my best to link all of the products that I used in the description box down below. I'll see you next time. Goodbye. You are the dancing queen, young and sweet, only 17. Hands in my hand. Must never let go. Walking a tightrope in the sky, but every nowhere down below. Walking a tightrope.